In 2007, I was found abandoned in an orphanage in South China, at only 1 day old, in a box, naked and nameless. Beside me was a single slip of paper, a hastily scrawled address of the stranger who had, by chance, discovered me and carried me there, as though passing off a burden. As I grew older, I imagined my birth mother hiding in the shadows, watching as I was discovered. I've always hoped that she didn't leave me there out of rejection, but out of love, hoping that one day I would be able to be adopted by a foreigner and brought to a country that could provide me the better life. I imagined the air was cool against my skin, and my cries, small and helpless, faded into a silence that no one rushed to break. For hours, perhaps longer, I lay abandoned to the mercy of strangers. When I was adopted from Chongqing, China, at 8 months old, I left behind a part of my story that I'll never fully know. There has been so much uncertainty about my biological background that even my birthday, August 1st, is merely an approximation. And beyond my own personal doubts, there was a cultural stigma that made things even harder for me to process growing up. In Chinese culture, adoption carries a stigma. Many people in my mother's generation believe that adopted Chinese children were uneducatable, unwanted, and unequal. When my mother was trying to adopt me, she received backlash from close Chinese friends and even family members who viewed adopted Chinese children as nothing more than country bumpkins. Everyone thought that my mother must have been crazy to believe she could honestly love another child who was not of her own blood. And when she brought me back to the States, she felt alienated by Chinese community circles. My mother worked hard for years, teaching me Mandarin, immersing me in my culture as much as she could, and preaching to me that love transcends blood. But hearing these stories of how much discouragement she had received for adopting me, and the general opinion of adopted children in Chinese culture angered me, and I felt I had a lot to prove. I remember telling myself in 2nd grade, I would not let anyone ever believe I was just a country bumpkin. One of my greatest struggles is that from very young, I've been a perfectionist, pushing myself to exceed academically. I remember last semester, I was sitting alone in my room late at night, feeling completely overwhelmed by calculus. I remember thinking to myself, how was this happening to me? College algebra and college trigonometry, these were easy peasy classes for me. How could I have ever known I wouldn't do well in calculus? In that moment, I felt like a failure. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't seem to perform well on the tests. And I began to question my worth. Was I not smart enough? Was I not capable enough? Everyone knows there is a genetic component to one's intelligence, right? Being from rural South China, how could I even imagine that I could compare myself with students whose parents were highly educated and had PhDs? It is extremely unlikely that my birth parents had much education at all. These thoughts spiraled, and soon they weren't just about math. They were about me as a person. I didn't belong in that calculus class. I didn't belong amongst the highest ranking students in my grade. There was just so much that I couldn't control. I began to suffer as I battled consuming self-doubt and a nagging fear that I would never amount to anything. I had set impossible standards for myself, and every time I failed to meet them, even slightly, I felt as though I was indeed right in thinking that I wasn't good enough. These thoughts seeped into every corner of my life, draining the joy out of hobbies like dance, making it difficult to get out of bed in the morning, and creating a sense of isolation that felt like an inescapable cage. And surely, by the end of the semester, I watched in absolute horror as my perfect, hard-earned GPA bled along with my confidence. It's easy to let moments like that define you, to get caught up in the daily struggles and believe that one setback, or even a series of them, say everything about who you are. But when you take a step back, when you look at the bigger picture, you realize they're just small moments in a much larger story. And my story is so much more than any single challenge. Looking back on my 17 years of life, I try to think about the holistic progress I've made, the enormous cultural obstacles I've overcome, and acknowledge the strength I've gained along the way. Life certainly isn't about having it all figured out. As a junior in high school, I know that I certainly don't. It's about embracing the journey and recognizing the growth that happens along the way. And for me, that growth has come from accepting my story. All of it. The pieces I know, the pieces I don't know, the struggles and the successes, the moments of doubt, and also the moments of clarity. I've learned also that growth is not always linear. There are always hills to climb, setbacks, and breakthroughs. But each step forward, no matter how small, is progress. When I look back at my life, I don't just see the challenges I face, no matter large or small. I see the resilience I've built. And I see the support system that has brought me through. Beginning at 1 day old when I was left at the foot of that orphanage, and bringing me to the place I am now, leading me to become the person I am, standing in front of you now. One of the most powerful tools that I've discovered on this journey is perspective. It's easy when you're in the middle of a tough moment, it's easy to get caught up. And it's easy to think that nothing else matters. But what I've learned is that when you take a step back, you see that that moment is just a part of the bigger picture, and you see how it all fits together. And it's often these tough moments that teach us the most and shape us into the people we're meant to become. Looking back at my life and seeing the bigger picture has been life-changing for me. It's helped me to see my abandonment not as a source of pain or confusion, but instead as the universe giving me a second chance at life. And it's helped me to see challenges like calculus and not fitting in, not as reflections of my worth, but instead as opportunities to grow and learn. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang once said, "I hope suffering happens to you." Greatness does not come from intelligence. Greatness comes from character. And character isn't formed out of smart people. No, it's formed out of people who've suffered. So what does this mean for you? This means that no matter what you're going through, no matter how hard things feel right now, you have the power to step back and look at the bigger picture. You all have the power to recognize where you come from and your progress, to celebrate your growth, and to find meaning in your journey. And when you do, you'll realize that you're so much more than any single moment or challenge. This helps us move forward with the confidence that no matter what comes our way, we have what it takes to pick ourselves up and keep going. Thank you.